All right, guys, so we are having a first impressions with the all new Nikon ZF. Now, people have been asking for a full frame retro camera since the ZFC came out. And I was one of those people. I was like, why don't we have a full frame camera system? Because the 28 f2.8 that they released was a full frame lens with an APS-C body. So in my mind, I was thinking there must be something in development, and yes, we have it right here, and it's called the ZF. Now, attached to it, I have the 40mm f2. By the way, this is a fantastic lens, and this is the special edition retro style lens on it. Absolutely love it. But we're gonna dive deeper into this camera system to talk to you about if this is the right camera for you, especially because this is a full frame retro camera, or would you want to opt for, let's say, the Z8, Z7 II, Z6 II? Let's get down to it. Before we kick things off, I do want to let you know we're not paid or sponsored for this video, but Nikon has been kind enough to loan us a pre-production unit of the ZF. So I am not going to give you a full review on this. This is the first impressions because firmware is not final on this. We cannot shoot in RAW format as of yet, only JPEG. So the images you'll be seeing throughout this video will be as such, but I just want to let you guys know that. Okay, so let's talk about some of the highlights of this camera system. You know, I'm on the Facebook groups, I'm on the forums, I'm on watching YouTube videos just like you guys are. So many of you have been asking, when are we getting a Z6 III? When is this camera coming? This is essentially that Z6 III. The ZF is arguably better than the Z6 II in any way, shape, or form, except minus the CF Express XQD card slot. That's really the only difference. And of course, if you like that more traditional SLR look, then you might go for the Z6 II, but in terms of specs and functionality and performance, this camera trumps it in a big, big way. Let's talk about some of the features inside of it. You have the X-Speed 7 processor. The same processor that's in the Z8 and Z9 is now in the ZF. That means your autofocusing, 3D tracking, all that's included in this. You have various different shapes you can just set for your autofocusing, up to 77 different variable scenarios. It's nuts. You're not gonna set all that, but it's there in the camera if you wanna do that. Subject detection, animal, people, all that's there. If you've used the Z9 and the Z8 and you're used to that autofocusing system, that's all brought in here to the ZF, which is awesome to use, especially in a retro camera look. In addition to this, you have improved IBIS up to 8 stops, but for the most part, it's gonna be 7 stops. Only certain lenses with VR will give you 8 stops of image stabilization inside the camera system, but there'll be a list, I believe, on Nikon's site when it's launched, so you can check that out to see if your lens does fall into that category. But for the most part, I would say 7 stops. Much better than the previous 5 stops that Nikon had on the Z6 and Z7 II. ISO is now from 100 to 64,000. So this is more than enough for most people out there. I know some companies like to say 200, 300,000 for ISO, but nobody ever shoots that. It's just more flexing their muscles, so to speak. 64,000, will you ever get to that? Hard to say, but a 24 megapixel sensor with good low light performance is more than adequate for most shooters out there. So yes, your baseline is 100 though, so keep that in mind. Also, a new feature of this camera, which I think a lot of you will like, is if, let's say you're looking through the EVF, instead of using a joystick to move your autofocusing point or your single point of autofocus, whatever it may be, you can now use the display. Now, how it works is you set inside the menu and you just use your thumb to move it around on the display. Now, it doesn't automatically autofocus when you select it onto the subject. You're still gonna have to press the shutter release or whatever button you have assigned for autofocus to lock focus on, but you can move the point via the display. This is a pre-production, so I'm not gonna get too deep into it. It works relatively well, but I'm guessing with the production firmware it will be even smoother, but I have to say for the most part, it's very useful and I think a lot of people will enjoy it, especially with the larger display on the back of this. Now, there is one feature to this camera system that I think a lot of people are going to enjoy, especially if you are into video. A full frame camera system with a flip out rotatable display. The first of its kind that Nikon has brought into a full frame camera. It's taken them a long time to do it, but they brought it into the ZF and hopefully they bring it into a Z9 II or Z8 II because I would love to see that. This makes shooting video so much easier. Speaking of video, let's talk about that right now. Up to 4K 60, but you're gonna get a crop at 4K 60, a 1.5 crop. Think of it like Super 35. But if you wanna do 4K 30, 4K 25, 4K 24, full width of the sensor. FHD at 120, you're not gonna be able to shoot in RAW on this, but how many people shoot in RAW? But you can, I believe, shoot it with F-Log, so if you wanna shoot in log, you can do that as well. One of the key features of the ZF is black and white. It's a switch on the camera. So you can go from video to photo to black and white, monochrome, baby. Now again, it's JPEG. You can shoot this in RAW. If you use the Nikon software, it'll import as a black and white, then you can convert it to color if you want. But you can shoot black and white very, very easily on this. Absolutely love it. I'm shooting half of my photos in black and white because everything looks better in black and white. It's awesome. You can dial it in. You can tweak the black and white a little bit however you want it to be, but it's a welcome attribute, and it kind of just adds the whole retro feel of this camera. Card slots, you have 2 of them now. You have a microSD and you have a UHS 2 card slot. Now, there's been discussion about these 2 card slots. Here's my theory on this, right? First and foremost, that the microSD card is meant to be a card that stays in your camera. Think of it like internal storage and use it as such. So whatever size you want, 32, 64, 128, you can keep it inside your camera. Your UHS 2 card, you can take that out as and when. Because a lot more cameras nowadays are using internal storage to sort of help photographers along the way, and you can use it even as a backup. That's how I'd use the microSD card, but then you have UHS 2. Do I wish there was CF Express Type B? I kind of do, but again, this is not a pro camera like the Z8 or Z9 or the Z7 II or Z6II in that regard, but it's relatively fast in terms of the read and write speeds on it, so no issues at all. But do take in mind that microSD, I would leave it in the camera. I think that's a brilliant move by Nikon. Okay, let's talk about body design. It's taken me a while, hasn't it? Yes, it has, because I have a ZFC. Now I have in my hands the ZF. Are there differences? Oh yeah, night and day. The ZFC is a very lightweight retro camera. It's smaller in size. It's a great camera for someone who's getting into digital photography or someone that just wants a nice lightweight kit to walk around, travel with. It just disappears in your bag. But the build quality, some people say, I wish it was a little bit better. I wish it was like the Nikon film cameras that I can get you. I have an FM3, that thing's built like a tank. I had an F3 HP too, by the way. Had to sell it. That's another story for another day. But Nikon's cameras have always been built beautifully, especially in the retro lineup, right? Now the ZF has that build quality like I'm used to using out of a film camera, right? I put my FM3A next to this bad boy. Oh man, I'm in glorious heaven. This is beautiful. It's built like a tank. It's solid metal construction. You can have some plastic bits here and there, but for the most part, it feels really good. It's got some nice weight to it. That's gonna help with stabilization for video and for photography as well. But I gotta tell you, it is built beautifully. Now it's a little thicker, it's a bit bigger than the ZFC. Granted, it's a full frame sensor versus APS-C, but absolutely love it. Now, there's a little bit of a grip here. You're gonna notice on the side versus the ZFC, which was completely flat. You had to get an additional grip. I got that from Japan because Nikon Singapore, you guys don't sell the extended grip. I had to buy it from Japan on eBay. They're here with me watching the video. Gotta bring that grip in. Anyway, it's a great grip. You can order from eBay from Japan, Nikon Japan, they'll send it over to you. But this one has the grip built in inside of it. And this is really good, especially when you're gonna be using larger lenses, because as we know, there's the 40mm f2 SE lens here and the 28 f2.8 that comes with the ZFC. Oh, you see what happens when we got the Nikon reps here? We've got the SmallRig grip. By the way, SmallRig collaborating with Nikon once again, and you've got a grip for the ZF that will be launched at market as well. Look at that bad boy. It's a little bit different than what we're feeling on the ZF, but this is more tactile, especially in our hot, humid climate in Singapore. I'm loving this grip. And getting back to the lenses, these are the 2 smallest lenses that you have for the retro lineup, the 40 f2 and the 28 2.8. I'm hoping Nikon does come out with a f2 lineup, let's say 50, 35, 75, kind of a retro AIS vibe to the lenses. Like these would be awesome. But I would highly recommend, if you're gonna be using the 24 to 70 or 2.8 or the f4 or any of the primes, the 51.2 glorious lens, one of the best 50s on the market, hands down, that you get the grip, because these are longer lenses. And I can't put it on just yet, but you know, it's gonna feel absolutely awesome, and you're gonna need that grip for those lenses. And if you wanna shoot super telephoto with this, well, you can. Just work out a little bit more. It's gonna a little bit be all long, but it'll work out. But overall, that's the design. Absolutely awesome. The EVF on the back of it, of course, got a little bit of a rubber eye cup here where the ZFC was plastic, a little bit harder plastic, much more comfortable to the eye to use. I love using an EVF. I'm more traditional that way, and I am very, very happy with that. Now, in terms of the ports on the side, micro HDMI. I know. Why do people use micro HDMI in 2023? It is what it is. If I wish it was full size, cameras are a little bit larger, but I don't think you're gonna be using HDMI to record on this camera for the most part. this is more of a run and gun kind of carry camera, but it is what it is. You still have HDMI access. USB-C, so you can charge via that if you want to do that as well. Your mic, headphone jack, all that's included in this, so no issues at all with that. So that pretty much wraps up my thoughts here on the camera in terms of the specs, what's inside of it. There's a lot more in terms of the finer features of this camera system, but you can read the website for that. But anyway, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get up, Zachy, we're gonna take some shots. And if you're thinking I was in a set the whole time, no. We're in the middle of a street or a sidewalk here in Singapore. We moved this around because the shop is closed today. Their opening hours are Monday to Saturday, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's F1 weekend here. So we decided to use their workbench. We keep it real, we keep it raw for you. Anyway, before we go show you some photos, quick message from our sponsor.
This video is brought to you by MSI. Meet the Summit E16 Flip, featuring the latest 12th Gen Intel Core i7 processor, RTX 30 series graphics, and a 16-inch Quad HD Plus touchscreen panel with a 360-degree hinge. It lets you unleash maximum productivity with up to 11 hours of battery life at just 2 kilograms. The Summit E16 Flip offers unprecedented performance and functionality, allowing you to work and play anywhere, anytime.
All right, so final thoughts on this camera. As you saw from the sample photos and some of the video footage here, it's a good camera. It's a 24 megapixels. We've seen this type of image quality coming out of Nikon's cameras before. It's really good, very sharp, great colors, got that Nikon color science, which we all love. But I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised using it for the brief time I've had it, just how feature rich this camera is. I mean, I thought when the rumors were coming out that they were going to announce a full frame camera system like this, it was going to be limited. It was going to be handicapped. It was just going to be about the looks and not much else. This is a camera, as I mentioned from the beginning of this video, essentially a Z6 III. Improved video functionality, improved autofocusing, improved specs all the way through. You have the same processor as the Z8 and Z9, and it delivers. Yes, it's a pre-production. Things are not final yet. Things will be improved, but I can tell you from a first impression standpoint, I think it's going to sell very, very well. The only thing Nikon needs to do now is actually make more lenses to match this style of body, because as we know, their full frame lenses are quite large and they may not fit ergonomically. This 40 f2 does well, the 28 2.8 does well, but it'd be nice to have them, let's say, do an f2 lineup, retro, AIS look to them, 50, 35, 75, even a 24. I think it would do very well for a lot of people out there, and maybe even a smaller zoom. But remains to be seen. I mean, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you guys think of this camera system? Are you gonna pick it up? Are you on the fence? Love to hear from you guys. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the all-new Nikon ZF. And if you like this camera review, check out more of our reviews right here.